China's LNG import landscape has been dynamic, characterized by rapid growth, a dip, and then a projected rebound, influenced by domestic demand, economic growth, energy security concerns, and global gas prices. Here's an overview of China's LNG imports from 2020 to 2030, combining historical data and future projections. Historical data, 2020 to 2024. In 2020, China signed relatively few long-term contracts in 2020 due to pandemic uncertainties and low spot prices. LNG imports were around 67 million tons or around 46 BCM, billion cubic meters. In 2021, China became the world's largest LNG importer, with imports jumping significantly to around 79.1 million tons. This was driven by a 15% increase in LNG imports and a 12.8% increase in overall gas demand, particularly in power generation. China signed a record number of long-term LNG contracts in 2021. In 2022, China's LNG imports saw a decline to around 63.44 million tons. This was largely due to high spot LNG prices and the impact of strict COVID-19 lockdowns, which curbed industrial demand. In 2023, imports rebounded by 12.6% to approximately 71.32 million tons, as zero-COVID policies were removed and economic activity recovered. In 2024, LNG imports continued to increase, reaching around 78.7 million tons, almost reaching the record high of 2021. This was supported by low spot prices in the first few months of the year, though demand recovery was soft and inventories were significant. Projections, 2025 to 2030. China's LNG import trajectory for the latter half of the decade is expected to see continued growth, though potentially at a slower pace than the rapid expansion witnessed prior to 2022. Several factors will influence this. Overall natural gas demand growth. China's natural gas consumption is projected to continue increasing. For instance, natural gas consumption is expected to rise by 6.5% in 2025, reaching around 456 billion cubic meters, BCM. This is driven by economic stability policies, industrial demand, and increased residential and commercial usage. Domestic production and pipeline imports. China is actively increasing its domestic natural gas production and pipeline imports, especially from Russia and Central Asia. These are generally cheaper than LNG, which could temper LNG import growth. Russian pipeline exports to China are planned to increase in 2024, reaching 30 BCM per year. Energy transition and coal to gas switching. Natural gas is seen as a key transitional fuel in China's energy mix, supporting decarbonization efforts by replacing coal in power generation and industrial sectors. The growth of gas-fired power plants to balance intermittent renewable energy sources will contribute to LNG demand. Economic growth and industrial activity. The pace of China's economic recovery and industrial sector growth will be a significant determinant of future LNG demand. Government stimulus measures could boost industrial activity, leading to higher LNG imports. Long-term contracts. China has signed a significant number of long-term LNG contracts, many of which are scheduled to begin deliveries from 2026 or later. This indicates a long-term commitment to LNG as part of its energy strategy. J.P. Morgan estimates that China's reliance on LNG to fill the gap between demand and domestic pipeline supply will be lower compared to the previous decade, as domestic production and pipeline gas imports are projected to grow roughly in line with overall gas demand. LNG terminal capacity. China is significantly expanding its LNG regasification capacity. Projections indicate China's LNG receiving capacity could reach 245 million tons per annum by 2030, more than double today's levels. However, there are concerns about potential underutilization if actual demand growth lags behind capacity. Global LNG supply and prices. Increased global LNG supply capacity, particularly from North America and Qatar, is expected to lead to a more structurally oversupplied market by 2030, potentially driving down LNG prices. This could make LNG more attractive to Chinese buyers. In summary, the outlook for LNG demand in China beyond 2030 remains strong.